Don't mock me for having like the weirdest thoughts ever because recently I just couldn't get this thing off my mind. In Exodus chapter 23, verse 13, here's what it says. Jehovah tells us, and in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, or essentially beware, take heed, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. And it's just funny because given that we live in the United States of America, right? We live in a westernized society. And actually, this is modern day Babylon, if you ask me. We've been so accustomed to using the names of the days of the week or of the months. It's like we're breaking this commandment every day without even realizing it. I'm going to let you take a moment to look at all the names of the days of the week so you can see which gods they're derived from. Just look at that. Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen. It's like I've been thinking, do we need to change our speech a little bit? Do I need to change how I talk about days and dates and time setting and things like that? I'm going to have a really hard time with this. I think we all would. Look, even the months are this way, at least all the way up until August. So I do want to make that clarification. It's only the first 8 months. So anywhere between, let me think. Let me do the math here. Roughly 235, 236 to 365 days out of the year, we're uttering the name of a false god. I think this is the third time in my life that I've thought of this, but this time, and I'm talking over the last 3 weeks, it just wouldn't leave my mind. It just wouldn't. And then, if you're using the Jewish calendar, you've got 2 months right here that are definitely named after pagan gods. So you're not exempt from participating in this idolatry as well. And this is why when God gave us the days of the week and the months, he only told us to count. He didn't give us all these names. In fact, the only month that's actually named in the whole Bible is Aviv, which people will say, oh, that means spring. The problem with that, though, is this idea that Aviv means spring didn't come until long after the Torah was written down and transcribed and everything else. What Aviv truly is a stage of development for the barley crop. I won't get much into it today, but Tammuz was believed to be a pagan wheat. So Tammuz was the god who represented the life cycle of wheat. He wasn't even a Babylonian god, he was a Canaanite god. But of course, the Babylonians did end up adopting a form of worship of him, as well as apostate Jews. Now, what we know about him is he essentially corresponds to the wheat dying in the summer, resulting in the production of a viable seed, which then comes back up in the winter during the time of the winter solstice. So if you don't understand the symbology of the winter and the summer solstices, I'm not here to go over them with you today. I just want to leave this as food for thought. And we see in scriptures that women were weeping over Tammuz at the gates of the temple. So why would you want to participate in this kind of worship? And I know you're going to sit there and you're going to look at me and be like, well, you worship Yeshua. That's an idol. Brother, you missed the Mashiach 2,000 years ago. And I've been saying that. Of course I'm going to utter the Mashiach's name. And I know you're expecting a Mashiach. This is not a foreign concept to the Torah and the Tanakh. Aside from Yehovah and his Messiah, no other name will be uttered out of my mouth. So there are some profound, yet superficial at the same time, parallels between Yeshua and Tammuz. It's almost like a mockery of the Messiah that preceded him, yes. But Hasatan knew what was coming when Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15 was prophesied over him. So we know Yeshua is known as the Good Shepherd from the Brit Hadashah. whereas Tammuz is the Mesopotamian deity that's known for shepherding, that's known for the fertility of flocks. Tammuz also annually descends into the underworld, and then his return is celebrated. It's like Ishtar goes down, grabs him, and he's resurrected or brought back to life. And then he has an attribute of healing people. So another name for Tammuz is Dumuzid, the shepherd, and he was responsible for the health of flocks, just like Yeshua came and healed people, and he was responsible for the health of those who were sick according to the law. Like he came and he said, essentially, I came not for the righteous, I came for those who are not righteous. I didn't come for the healthy, I came for those who are sick, those who need healing, spiritually speaking, for the most part. And yes, spiritual sickness can manifest into physical illnesses. That is absolutely a biblical truth, but he was talking more or most specifically about spiritual illnesses. Then another parallel, I guess, is in the Babylonian understanding, there are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. In the scriptural understanding, there's only winter and spring, and I have proof verses for that. But isn't it interesting? Yeshua rose on the 3rd day. And if you were to count the number of seasons from summer to winter, according to the Babylonian tradition, you have summer, fall, winter. So Yeshua resurrects on the 3rd day, and Tammuz comes back to life in the 3rd season. I came up with that one myself. I wasn't able to find internet results for that. This is why Yeshua tells us in John chapter 12 and verse 24, and I was going to use another verse from the Gospels to relate to what's going on here, what I'm teaching on here, but John chapter 12, just going back to this one, makes the most sense. He says, I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat is planted in the soil and dies, it remains alone. But its death will produce many new kernels, a plentiful harvest of new lives, or new seeds. So what Yeshua is saying is he's referring to the agricultural cycle of the wheat producing seed, the seed falling to the ground, and it growing on its own all over again. But basically he's saying we need to be providing attribution and credit for that to Yehovah our Father, and not to the ancient Mesopotamian deity Tammuz. This is a natural process that he's explaining, and it's also a truism that applies to other aspects of life. But it's thanks to Yehovah that we have that. Now it's interesting, considering the context of Ezekiel, how not that long after we see the women weeping outside the temple for Tammuz, Yehovah himself says in Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 11 through 12, that he himself will search for his sheep and look after them, and that as a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so he will look after his sheep. Now, letting Tanakh interpret the Tanakh, we know that Israel is the sheep because Jeremiah says so. Israel is a scattered flock that lions have chased away. The first to devour them was the king of Assyria. The last to crush their bones was Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. You know that Yeshua is a manifestation of Elohim. So here he claims the credit. He says, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. And likely here, based on the prophecies I see in the Old Testament, he's talking about Edom and Ishmael. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. Now, people are going to say, you really misinterpreted Ezekiel 34. You're also really about to misinterpret Daniel chapter 7 because Yeshua is not the Son of Man. Also, the Messiah hasn't come and gathered everybody from the 4 corners of the earth yet. So in verses 30 through 31 of Matthew 24, we see, then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call or shofar blast, and they will gather his elect, or Israel, from the 4 winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. He'll fulfill that prophecy in Tanakh. This verse means Zechariah will be fulfilled, where it says they will mourn for him as they mourn for an only son, meaning they will lament their sin. They pierced Yeshua.